they're not going to know us. There was a real concern about that. So we went out and surveyed several of our investigative sites, our KOLs in oncology, and just said, what is it to you that's most important for thinking about working with a sponsor? And I should say, one of the reasons this is so important, why we believe it's so important, is if, when you think about the oncology space, 30 to 40 to 50% of research going on, I think, is in oncology. There's so much competition. How do we get people wanting to work with us? So interestingly, out of the survey really came the following, I think, which was quite comforting. First and foremost, it was the promise of the drug. If you have really innovative, important new medicines in cancer that have a lot of good science behind it, you're going to attract. That's what's most important to those investigators, especially at the early phases. And I think what we heard was the academic bent, the kind of scientific orientation of the company was a real plus for them. They like to work with a company like Millennium because of that background. A company that puts patients first, full disclosure of data, a lot of transparency. And lastly, being heard. They wanted to feel like their comments on a protocol or their input was being heard, and that a company that did that well was one that they wanted to work with. So, we felt that actually all of these things certainly could be achievable. We had to do some additional work, but achievable in a context of working with more of an outsourced model. And this just, puts up a little bit of the key risks about, layers between sponsor and site, a lack of continuity, unpredictable quality, things like that. And what are the things that we're trying to do to alleviate some of that? And I think what we want to make sure is that Millennium continues to have a direct channel from the sponsor to the investigator. That's especially important in the phase 1 and early phase 2 trials. We cannot give that up. We've got to have that. It's really critical. And also, if we build deep relationships with a small number of CROs that know us, that know what's important to us, they will be better able to serve as the face of Millennium to our important customers. So where are we right now? I just have a couple more slides. Yeah, a few more minutes. So when we looked at the overall business in the pipeline, we realized that we were going to need approximately needed three global full-service CRO providers. We had a preferred provider selection team, and we made a selection for 3 relationships. And we are, looking to allocate the work substantially and equally to keep our partners engaged, and really looking to develop very deep, real partnering relationships long-term. But working in a model that's not this is what we want you to do. It's really getting our providers involved very early on at the initiation of programs to ensure that it really feels like a true partnership. So what may be different about the Millennium approach, and I think I've illustrated some of these things. We had a very significant focus on change management internally. We integrated working relationships between the Millennium and the CROs. And we're also doing a lot of functional integration with technologies. We put into place our CTMS system. We're trying to do that in conjunction with our partners to ensure that what we have at the end of the day is going to be something that's going to work with our providers. Similarly, on the data standards and the programming piece. So whenever we think about work, we think about it in conjunction with our partners. And it's just a completely different mindset. I think that's going to bode well for the future for this model. And our vision for the future. So I would just say, if you asked me today, and I was asking people before I came, it's like, what can I say it's a success yet? I mean, we all know in this business it takes, cycle times are long. We had a lot of legacy, at the time of the acquisition, there was a lot of legacy relationships and projects, and you let those run their course. So right now, I'd say we're a little bit of a hybrid approach. But I think that we think that the early signs in terms of getting the organization around this with our CRO providers and our overall providers for services, that we're really off to a good start. Obviously, a lot of continued learnings, implementing metrics, potentially looking at Millennium-specific career opportunities with CROs. These are just some of the ideas of where we think we need to continue to go to. So it's not over yet, it never is, but hopefully this was, hopefully I could illustrate to you kind of an example of a company and the approach that we take, and come back in a couple years from now, tell you how well it's done. So thank you.